And it is time for Building Rural Wealth. We have with us Dan Miller. Dan, good morning to you.
Hey, good morning, Aaron.
Denise Miller. How are you, Denise?
I'm good.
So I have to say, when looking at the notes for today, this one's a good one. Here we go. When Junior won't leave the house. Okay.
There you go.
Let's talk about this, Dan.
Okay, well, we wanted to kind of talk about something that can be a little uncomfortable. All right, so let's say you're nearing retirement, which is great. That's a great event everybody looks forward to.
Yeah.
But then I want you to picture this. Your kids are adults, but they're still leaning on you financially. Maybe it's rent. Maybe it's student loans. Maybe it's insurance, phones. Or they tell you, just till things get settled. And maybe they're still living with you or they've moved back in. We all love our kids, but part of us thinks, this is just what parents do. But another part is quietly wondering, how long can this continue before it really starts affecting us?
Yeah.
So today's conversation is about that potential tension that can arise in those situations. Helping your adult kids without putting your own future at risk is key. And so we wanted to talk about that today.
Great topic, because it is something that many people deal with. So.
Absolutely.
All right. Guilt versus sustainability. Denise.
Most parents don't approach this logically. They approach it, with emotions first.
Mm-hmm.
And, the guilt can really step in. They're trying their best. Or, we had help when we were their age. Or, we'll just work a little longer if we need to. And you start helping. And sometimes that help doesn't stop.
Mm-hmm.
Money can leave without limitations.
Mm-hmm.
And then your retirement and your emergency funds slowly get depleted. And then the next question creeps in. Are we being generous, or are we putting ourselves at risk?
And
Great question.
Aaron, I've been doing this for several years. I've been doing this in my 23rd year in the business. 22nd year, in the business. And I've seen this. I've seen it.
You've probably seen it multiple times.
I've seen it literally. People have to go back to work after they retire.
Oh, wow.
And for this exact reason, because they couldn't tell their kids no. And so it's not something fun to talk about. People that are out there saving and, have been successful saving, wanting to, have a good, successful retirement. It's just an important thing to think about.
Yeah. So why does it get riskier, Dan, in your 60s?
Well, here's a part that a lot of people don't want to say out loud. Helping your kids in your 40s is very different than helping in your 60s.
Mm-hmm.
Because, at this stage, you got fewer earning years left. Retirement, is very real now. I'm 62. I'm not ready to retire today, but it's real now.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot more real than it was when I'm 60. And, like everybody else, you've got fewer earning years left. You've got fewer years to absorb big market risks. So, if you're taking money out of your retirement, taking money out of your emergency funds and helping your kids a lot, you don't have as much time for that to, rebuild itself.
Right.
Healthcare and longevity are really becoming concerns for you now. And, sometimes unplanned support can quietly lead to having to delay the retirement, like Denise said, reduced income later on. It's just, I guess we're going to have to live with less, than what we thought.
Right.
And then also the other thing, that it can cause a lot of tension in a family.
Well, sure.
A tension between spouses, tension between you and your kids. And for the parents, this isn't about being selfish if you don't want to continue to help your kids. It's about recognizing that every dollar now has a lot more responsibility in your 60s than it did in your 40s.
Absolutely.
And that's something, this tension between spouses. This is something we see a lot of, that maybe one is, we've got to get this money and help. They need this help. And then, the other spouse is saying, but are they ever going to pay it back? Are they ever, so you can really get into some very tenuous, relationship issues with your spouse because you're not both on the same page.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things, too, in any conversation is to define or redefine what words mean. What are we talking about? And to be clear. So helping.
Helping.
What does helping really mean, Denise?
Okay, well, as you know, or maybe you don't know, but I'm a Webster Dictionary Word of the Day person.
I did not know that.
And so I enjoy looking up what words mean. And here is the hard truth. Support does not mean unlimited financial assistance. Parents may need to ask better questions about how they can really help. What actually helps move them forward? What can we afford and for how long? What are the expectations? Are they clear on both sides? Because unclear help doesn't just have the potential to strain the finances, it really can strain those relationships as well.
Mm-hmm.
And think about the last time you helped your adult children. Was it clear what the goal was? Or did it just feel like the easiest way to avoid a tough conversation?
You know, that goes to a lot of what we have talked about over the years, having clarity, having a plan, and having some of those tough conversations.
Having tough
Absolutely.
conversations.
So, I mean, some of those are not comfortable having. This is one of them.
I mean, it kind of goes back to that thing about how every piece of your financial life is intertwined. I mean, you know, and so, again, I don't want anybody to think that Denise and I are cold-hearted. And I mean, we love our adult kids, and we
Yes.
know everybody loves their
Yes.
kids. You never stop loving your kids.
Right.
You know, but
And we're
also,
guilty. Andrea's still on our cell phone.
yeah. Which I don't know what the heck with that, but anyway. But yeah, now it's out there. Denise. Now
That makes us human.
I guess there you go. That's right. But you know, but it's very real conversations that we all need to have.
Yeah.
So
So,
I think, too, the other thing is you have to have these unpleasant conversations because what else we have seen in our business is they have more than one child, you know, and so then they come in and we're going through beneficiary designations and they're like, well, you know, instead of it being 50-50, you know, we probably need to drop the one child that we've been helping back and say, okay, we're going to make it now be 70-30 because we've gave them a lot of money, but the other child doesn't know that.
mm-hmm.
And then when it gets to be,
Then you have a real problem
then
with
you
that.
have a real problem at the end of it
Yes.
because if that person passes away and they get wind that, well, why did I only get 30 and you got 70?
if that hasn't
If
been
that
shared,
hasn't
Yeah.
been shared, which
Yeah.
sometimes it's not,
Yeah.
it can create more problems and hurt relationships down the line.
Again, it's why it's better to address it and just
Absolutely.
get it taken care of.
Absolutely.
So how can you help? Because you want to help. They're kids. You love your kids. You want to help your kids.
absolutely.
But without hurting yourself. Dan, what do you do?
Well, kind of like what we've touched on, you gotta have some structure around it, you know. And I know that's hard whenever you're talking about family, you know. But you know, first of all, I think you know, as the parents, you need to know your financial boundaries. You just need to know how much could you really help without hurting yourself. You know, your support really needs to come from your surplus, not the sacrifice of what you're absolutely going to need in retirement.
Right.
You know, and I say this a lot of times. You got to think with your head. You have to think with your head, not only your heart. You know, I mean,
Yes.
it's very easy for all of us to think purely with our heart. Again, this is our
Especially with your kids.
absolutely.
Yeah.
These are our kids. We love our kids.
Yeah.
You know, but you got to think with your head, not
Yeah.
just your heart. You know, and second, you know, I'd say be clear about the purpose of the support. You know, is this temporary? Is it something to get them through a tough period? Is it for some education maybe? Is it something, you know, is it to help them get into that first house? You know, you need to understand also, do you expect them to pay you back or not?
Right.
You know, I mean, and like Denise just said, you know, will there be a time in the future where you'll want to, like if there's more than one child, you'll want to even some of that up and help, you know. So the last thing I'll mention about this part is you also, if it's husband and wife, you need to stay aligned as a couple on this.
Yeah.
You know, because just like Denise said, we've seen it where one spouse is just like, oh, we got to help them, we got to do whatever. And the other was like, I'm all for helping, but we got to do this within limits. We got to, but so the spouses got to stay on the same page together.
Yeah. One of the things we've talked about a number of times, and by the way, Dan Miller and Denise Miller with me this morning from Milestone Financial, Building Rural Wealth. One of the things that we've talked about is part of a plan, having a plan.
Having a plan.
Should this be part of my plan?
Absolutely. Support for adult children shouldn't exist in isolation. It should connect to your retirement income planning, tax considerations, health care planning, and what we mean by that is cost of health care. Every year it goes up.
Mm-hmm.
Legacy and long-term goals. You know, when it's part of a bigger plan, you should be able to say yes with more confidence. And you should also be able to say, not right now, without guilt. Your kids will hopefully understand the purpose behind the help, and sometimes one clear conversation can prevent years of confusion and hard feelings.
Very good. It's great information, and it does impact a lot of people. So wrap it up for me, Dan. Put this all together for me.
You know, again, I'm going to emphasize, we all love as parents, we all love our kids, and wanting to help your kids never goes away, no matter how old they are. But protecting your own future is part of your responsibility as a spouse, as a parent, as a citizen. You want to make sure that you have, money and resources to take care of yourself. So intentional, well thought out support as part of your financial plan can really help provide some clarity for both you and your children.